Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Women Have Needs Too. Women have needs too. Right now, we need to make the mind gut connection. I don't know about you, but my mind tells me to eat things sometimes I don't want to eat, or I know I shouldn't eat. We are here today with Michelle Trias with My Naturo Wellness. She is my nutritionist, and she has kicked my butt into gear. Not really kicked it, but she has persuaded me and
Lovingly.
lovingly educated me to help make the mind gut connection and how to kind of go around and be smarter with our mind and our gut when it comes to what we put in our body. Right, Michelle?
Right. It's great to be here
with us today. Why is it important for us to make this mind gut connection?
Well, we often think, we go around thinking like, well, I'm hungry, I feel it in my stomach, or sometimes I want that thing and it's just something I want, I'm thinking about it. And we're not connecting the fact that your brain is very connected to your gut. And we also aren't connecting how is it connected? Like your brain is far away from your gut. You've got your brain and all these other organs between your brain and your gut. How are they actually communicating to each other? So that's why it's important, because it gives you a lot of information about your immune system, about why you crave the things you want, about your mood, which is super important when making the mind gut connection. What you eat affects your mood. It is science that it affects your mood, and it also affects your immune system. And we've heard more these days, your immune system is in your gut. That was something that nobody heard of before, that they weren't thinking of before. But now we know that you make neurotransmitters, you have neurotransmitters in the brain, neurons, meaning brain, right? But you have 30% of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. 30% of your neurotransmitters from the brain are actually made in the gut. So you have this like extra brain down in your gut that nobody knows about it. A second little brain that's also doing some thinking and some communicating back up to the brain. So all of this is really important to know, so that you have a better understanding of why you crave certain things, what's going on in the gut, and how you can improve your health and your mood.
Okay, so I really want to if we have time at the end of this, I really want to get into the whole how it affects your mood and your temperament, depression or happiness. I mean, because really when you eat sugar, you're happy for about a minute, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what
that is so accurate for about a minute. I don't know if you've noticed it too, but if you've ever bitten into like a doughy piece of bread, when you bite into it, in those moments that it's in your mouth and that you are chewing, oh my gosh.
I'm imagining it right now.
What happens in your brain is that your dopamine receptors, which are the ones that they start to fire. They're like, and that's what when you feel like, kind of an ecstasy, kind of like that feeling. If you took drugs, and that's what's being released is dopamine in the brain. It's feeling of like, this feels amazing. But then it just goes, and then it goes straight back down. And then what happens is that your body has to deal with actually metabolizing that, because all you got was that 1 minute of satisfaction, and then it's over. And so what do? You take another bite. And then you take another bite and another bite until you sit at the end of the meal and you're like, why did I do that? I'm not happy.
Right.
I'm full and I don't feel good.
What's that?
I said, I'm full and I don't feel good, because I'm like,
exactly. You get you get the icky feeling afterwards. So when you have a piece of bread and it's like all yummy in your mouth, and that dough and that, and then you feel good, you feel good. And then you want more. It's like a drug. How can what is that correlation of it being like a drug?
Well, when you take drugs, like if you're taking ecstasy or coke, you're releasing dopamine in the brain, and so it's like,
it's the dopamine.
It's the dopamine that's doing that, and so it's the same sort of reward. You feel immediate reward. Right. You feel reward when you get a hug from somebody that you really love, like your mom. You feel reward too, and we are humans are trained to want reward. I want reward. I want reward. I want my little reward. And so what we need to do is get rewards from places like our food that is healing for us. Like when you eat fruit or when you eat vegetables, you get a reward. It is an instant. It's not that instant gratification, but the reward does happen later as you metabolize. You start to feel really, really good. And talking about the gut, right? Serotonin, when you're depressed, what do they put you on? At a doctor's office, you're depressed, I'm depressed, they put you on an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake. But you make all the serotonin for your body, it's a neurotransmitter, you make it in the gut. And you can only make it if you're eating food that is alive, food that's growing towards the sun. So we can make serotonin ourselves if we just, eat more of these foods. And what does serotonin do? Serotonin gives us that feeling of good well-being. I feel okay. I'm not sad. I'm not super happy, but I feel content in my day. So we're going around, and although some people do need medication, adding in that nutritional component is super important. And then understanding, well, all the neurotransmitters are there in my gut. So if I just can help make more, then I will increase my mood.
Right. So even though some people need that prescription for the SRI, the serotonin
uptick.
Reuptick. Okay. So see, I was listening. So even though they might need it medically, they might need that prescription, they can help themselves and reduce the amount that they need by upping their, like you said, the food that grows towards the sun. If they increase that in their daily diet, and it has to be daily, right?
Yes.
And the next time we're with you, because we're going to see Dr. Michelle again, because we love her so much, but we're going to talk about, I'm going to let you guess what we're going to talk about. But anyway, we're on task. Let's talk about what the mind and gut connection is. Is there really a mind gut connection, or are we just trying to make one?
Well, I want to share something with all of viewers here. So I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see this. Can you see this, Linda?
Yes, I can. I can't see the words, but
I'm gonna sort of say the words.
okay.
So here you see the brain is up here, and here's the brain stem right here. And this kind of darker yellow line, this is called the vagus nerve. And this nerve is connected all the way up here to the brain, is connected to your throat. It comes down, it's connected to your heart, it's connected to your lungs and your pulmonary branch and your cardiac branch. It comes down, it's connected to your spleen and your stomach. Here you can see a lot of connection here. And then as it goes down, you can see lots and lots of connection in the intestines. And so this is the path for two-way communication from the brain all the way down to the gut, what we call the gut, which is the intestines, and then all the way back up. And so the brain is communicating down and the gut is communicating back up as to what's going on. So there is an actual physical connection between the two. Although we talked about neurotransmitters being made in the gut, and that's important too, but that is also important. But it's also important to know that you have this nerve that connects from the brain all the way to the gut. And then once you get inside here, and you can see how important the gut and the stomach are, because look how many nerve branches that you can see are branched out from there. And there's so much more than what's on this picture, right? And then once you go looking into what's in the gut, that's when you start to talk about what's the microbes in there and what are those microbes doing, like microbes like yeast, or good microbes, or microbes that aren't so good, microbes that may be causing you problems. And we can talk a little bit more about that balance of good and bad bacteria.
All right, so let's talk about it. So you want to keep that up? Do you need to?
No, we don't.
So let's talk about it. So all those nerve endings going down to the gut, that's the mind, and gut connection. And you have one connection in the mind, and you have all these little feelers in the stomach and the gut. So why is that important to know that there's all those feelers down there, all those connections, the connectivities?
So this is well, and it's not super new information, but it's not something that's been well known or documented or researched on about, but it's so super interesting that there's two-way communication, that the brain is communicating down and the gut is communicating up. So like we talked about with mood when we were talking about how that can be affected too, but people who tend to have IBS also tend to be depressed, right? So they have irritable bowel syndrome and they're depressed. And so it's like, what came first? Did they first have irritable bowel and then it caused depression? Did they have depression and then it caused irritable bowel? They're still researching that aspect to really pinpoint it down. But I would venture to guess that in most cases, it starts with the gut. You know, you have this irritable bowel, you're not making enough serotonin, you're not, and then it's causing you to have more symptoms of depression. But on the other side of that, when we're talking about immunity and your immune system being in your gut down there too, there's lots and lots of microbes. You've got, you know, over 50 trillion bacteria living in your gut. This is something that's super cool that I've been wanting to tell you about. And I'm not sure if I've told you when we've talked on the phone before, but when you actually pass through the birth canal, when your mother pushes you out, she passes microbes from her to you, and her mother passed those microbes to her, and then those microbes were then passed to you. So when you think about it, your bacteria in your gut has so many centuries of people who've lived before you that are there. So they're there with you. They're part of you. You know, when you say, oh, I'm my mother's daughter, it's very true. All the bacteria that formed in her forms in you. And your great grandmother and your great and beyond and beyond and beyond. We just keep passing on this bacteria. But what has happened in the last 50 years is that we've had an increase in cesarean section. And so we're not passing the bacteria on in that way. That's one thing that's happened. And so proliferation of bad bacteria is happening in people. And then also, secondly, with microbes, we're eating fast frozen processed foods, which don't allow us to have good bacteria. And then we have too much bad bacteria. And then there's what's called dysbiosis. It's not enough good bacteria. It's too much bad bacteria. This is why you crave that when you like, oh, I crave this or that. It's the bacteria that are saying, oh, I really want that. I really want that, because bad bacteria wants more of it.
Yeah. So when you eat one piece of bread or eat one piece of chocolate or whatever, the gut is saying, I need more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's two-way communication, right? Okay. The gut already knows. She put yeast in us. Okay, so we're going to get yeast very soon. It's coming down to the small intestine. Let's get more. Let's get more yeast. And so that's why we kind of crave those things, because whenever you're craving bread, whenever you're craving those things, it's usually an indication that there's too much of that yeast or that candida in the body. And the more you stay away from it, the less you crave. Until you completely kill it off, you're always going to.
How long does it take to kill it off? Let's talk about
it. Can take up to a year and a half to repopulate your body and have all this good bacteria. But putting in good quality probiotics is super helpful, and having good juices and smoothies and good foods that are alive is like the second part of that too. So repopulation is important with good quality probiotics. And people are always asking me, like, probiotics, what should I do? And I'm always like, at least 100 billion CFU, at least. Don't go by the store and spend $40 and look on the back and it's 10 billion. It's not enough. It's like draining the tub and then filling it with 1 cup of water. It's not going to be enough to give you, think 50 trillion bacteria in your gut. So after you're long gone and buried, your bacteria will still be there, alive and well. Kicking.
That's crazy. So one thing that I want to touch on is that the yeast, it feeds off yeast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's telling your brain, I want more, I want more.
I want more yeast.
You go after that other piece of bread. So really, for me, the best thing for me to do is to not even take that first bite of bread.
Yes. That's the best thing to do. And
Because
to get your dopamine from other places, and to get your, like, that feeling from other places, like being out in nature will increase your dopamine, and it will help reduce your stress just to be out in nature, outside in the water, at the beach, in the sun. Getting it from those places naturally instead of getting it from food that's not that good for you.
Not good for me. So let's talk about detox. We have a few more minutes left. So I wanted to say something about discipline first. At first, in my mind, that I could be totally off base here. Discipline, I think, comes from the brain and the heart, right? But once I put that a piece of bread or chocolate, I say bread because I love bread. Once I put that first bite of bread in me, and let's just say I'm just going to have one bite. But what they say about Lay's potato chips, you can't have just one. You can't have just one because now your gut is taking over from your brain, right? So the first chip was on you, right?
Yeah.
But the second chip is on your gut.
Well, not only that, you got the brain saying, I want more dopamine. Okay. And then you got the gut saying, I want more yeast.
I want more. Okay. Gotcha.
So I want that feeling of feeling good. And then I also want that yeast. So the body is kind of like working against you in this scenario where it's like, just don't touch it. Don't go near it. And so is the best way to do it. And if you've been at this for years and years and years and years, you can have a piece and just it be one piece. You don't need it because the brain isn't needed and the gut doesn't need it. So it's like, okay, well, I can have one piece and not feel super like I need to have this whole bread basket, right? But it takes a long time to get to that point where the microbes, all the good bacteria, is so much more than any of the bad bacteria.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. So you finally get to a point where you can just have a bite and not have to have the whole thing because you're just satisfying that, oh, I just want to have that taste in my mouth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what I was going to say is, so for people like me who like a lot of bad stuff like bread, chocolate, I used to like wine a lot. Cheese. You and we talked about it before, but we are going to, I think we have it on the books. We're doing a cooking show and we're going to have so much fun because we're going to show people how you can eat healthy and still have that satisfaction of stuff that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And replace it with new stuff that you're going to love just as much,
if not even more. And
it's not even more. And it's going to be not only not bad for you, but it's going to be good for you. And you're not only going to be, okay, that's a great substitute, but you're going to love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fun to do that. But I wanted to talk about the depression and the mood swings of eating bad. And, I'm not going to say eating bad and eating good. I'm going to say eating healthy and eating not so healthy.
Right.
So eating healthy, do you get that? Like you talked about with the dopamine from eating fresh fruit, you're not going to get it immediately, but you are going to get it. Right.
Right. I mean, because what happens is we're not meant to be like, woo,
all the time.
We're meant to be at a place of homeostasis, right? We're meant to be here. And then sometimes we have these amazing moments and we feel like, yay, and then we come back here. The problem is that too much of this high can bring a real big low. Think of caffeine. That's a really big, like, okay, I'm going to go really high. I'm going to get pumped up and then I'm going to crash down. So the body is better at a state of like balance where you're like content and you're happy. And that's what eating fresh foods, fresh fruits and vegetables will do. It'll give you this steady energy, this steady sort of feeling like everything is going to be fine. And
you'll have more energy than if you're eating like this.
Exactly. And when you have more energy, it's just study after study. You are a happier person. You're just are happier when you have energy. When you're tired, It's like one of the symptoms of depression is not being able to get out of bed, right? But also it's one of the symptoms of IBS too, is that you have tons of chronic fatigue. And
Right.
so we're tired, we have irritable bowels, we're unhappy, right? And it's all really starting in the gut. So I think it's really important to do talk therapy. I think it's really important that if you're on medication, that you continue with that medication, but to look at like the root cause, what is the very root cause of some of these imbalances is important. Some people have really intense things that happen to them in their lives that cause them to feel certain ways. And that needs to be addressed as well as the nutritional component, and like putting the mind, body, and then I'm going to add another thing here, spirit, because it's your spirit that gets put down when something really catastrophic happens, or something really stressful happens, or something really awful happens to you. You know, it's your spirit that's really like brought down. And so bringing in the mind and the gut and your spirit, kind of looking at it holistically, is really important. So I encourage anybody who's watching, struggling with that, to really continue on your path, of course, and also add in the nutritional component. It's going to really help you to get to where you want to be next.
That's great. Great advice, Dr. Michelle. So we're going to close, but before we close, you've already given us so much amazing information during this, short time. It feels like it's only been a minute. So what about the person who wants to make a change, but doesn't feel like they have that, let's just say, discipline? Are there any tricks to try to wean yourself off? Like, I know with me, I try to give myself one cheat day. And when I'm really good, I'm like, I don't even need a cheat day. I just want to keep on this road that I'm going because it's going really good.
Yeah.
But I know, like, for me at the beginning, that really helped me, is having one cheat day. But are there any other tricks? And then we have to constitute what a cheat day is too, because I'm like,
yeah, let's talk about that, because it's different based on your age too. So I'll say this: people who are younger, who are maybe going through some sort of chronic condition, let's say it's eczema or bronchitis or something like that, they can heal so much faster than people who are older. It's just much faster. They're still making antioxidants until they're 20. Their bodies are just able to heal quickly. And so if you're younger, let's say, from 0 to like 25, you will see that your body can heal much better. Right around 18, 19, 20, it kind of starts to like pair off as you're healing. And so cheat days, when you're 20, you can have lots and lots of cheat days before it really starts to hurt you. When you're 30, you really have to reduce that down. 40. So the older you get, the less amount that you can really cheat your body, because you just don't have that, like, you don't have what you had when you were much younger. So doing some cheat days can be helpful, but I find that sometimes people have a hard time with that, with self-control. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't have the discipline or self-control with it, then doing a cheat day is actually going to be not as beneficial for you. And just keep going, open your eyes each day and do your best. And if you make a mistake, then just get right back on the wagon and so to speak. But if you have more control, then doing a cheat day can really help you get to have something to look forward to. What happens, and you've noticed this too with your own health, is that the food that you start to make becomes so delicious. You start to get invested in the food you're making, that it's like, oh, who knew that this was healthy? Nobody, you could have not said anything and I would have not known that it was like a super healthy detoxing meal, right? And that's the goal, to get to that point and to have people wanting to make their own recipes and sort of taking control of their own health. That's the goal. Once you get there, then it's kind of the sky's the limit, because now you're making things that you find delicious and healthy, and you're not being spoon-fed them. So taking that baby step is really good. Knowing like where you are on the spectrum of age is important too, and then knowing your personality type. Some people just cannot. They have a cheat day and then they feel really bad and then they just roll. And that has happened to so many patients of mine, where they're like, I see them after 2 weeks and I'm like, what happened? I had a cheat day that ended up into a cheat week. that ended up into 2 cheat weeks. And here I am. I can't believe it. And then they hate on themselves. And what happens? They're sad. They're more depressed because they fell
They have less
off.
energy. And then a good detox will help get that back in check.
Yes. And so that's exactly you are my patient, because you know exactly what I would say next. If you did that, I would say, well, now we need to detox you. So a nice good juice cleanse would help detox the body and sort of like reamp your goals. And so sometimes what I'll tell people that are struggling, I'll say tomorrow or Friday, you're gonna juice fast all day. And oh my God, no, I don't want to juice.
You feel so much better after you do it.
They feel so much better. So Saturday, like they feel amazing. And then you just went through that. So you're like, well, I'm not going to do that thing because I already just went through this juice fast and I'm feeling so good. I don't want to feel bad again. Right. And so doing that and doing some juice fasting or even intermittent fasting can really help with when you're trying to make change to your body.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. So much good information crammed into one episode. It's been a great time. And I can't wait to see you again, Dr. Michelle. Women have needs too. Right now, I need to make the mind-gut connection. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and get your gut in check. Have a great day.